Welcome, guys. We have some questions today. And the questions are about what really is cryptocurrency, because there's so many of them. And, if you're like the average person, you're looking at all this stuff and you're seeing all these this coins and that Ethereums and this, that, and the third, and you don't know, like, well, which one should I get? Are any of these going to hit the moon? Should I spend a lot of money on something that's worth like 0.0005 cents? Or should I invest in Bitcoin or one of the big ones like Ethereum? What is Dogecoin doing? There's so much there. There's so much confusion, and understanding the fundamentals of what cryptocurrency is probably more helpful before you start buying a lot of stuff. So we're going to talk about that today. Another thing that I want you to consider is taking your finger and either using a mouse or your finger itself on your screen and hitting that like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell so you know when I have new videos about this and other topics in the future. Wrestling with Finance is a channel about helping people who have wrestled with finance in the past and may need a little help in knowing what's going on out here, and a video like this is going to help you out. So thank you very much for hitting the like button and the subscribe button and sharing this wherever you talk about money, cryptocurrency, or just with anybody who needs to know about this stuff. I appreciate it very much. So before we really get into some of the different coins out there, and I'm going to talk about a couple of different coins and what they really are, we need to really explain what cryptocurrency is and essentially what Bitcoin is. And a lot of these coins that you see are forked off of Bitcoin. And what forking is in the coding world is where you have a set of code and then it gets split off into a different set of code. Now, they might not be exactly equal, but they are based off of the same thing. And since this is wrestling with finance, I guess an easy way to describe this to people who are fans of that particular genre is think about WWE, and they were once just WWE, and then they had the brand split where they basically forked off into SmackDown and Raw, which were two different shows, but they're both WWE based off of the same idea of what sports entertainment is. And then later off, they had another fork, which was NXT. And then off of that, they had another fork of that, which was NXT UK. And they're continuing to do forks as we go along. Pretty much the same thing is true of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. So you have Bitcoin, which then split off to Bitcoin Cash, and you have Bitcoin Satoshi, and you have Bitcoin this, and Bitcoin that, and Bitcoin Gold, and all these other ones. And that's really how that works. It's the same thing, again, as doing a brand split. You're doing forks here with Bitcoin to get different kinds of Bitcoins and different kinds of cryptocurrencies that handle different things. Now, we should probably start with the big daddy of them all, which is Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, a lot of people consider it to be the equivalent of digital gold. So you know how, like, in the real world, we have gold that was, the old gold standard, which then gold went to cash, and cash went to credit, and credit is now into digital credit and digital funds, and now cryptocurrency is the next evolution of that, many people think. Well, Bitcoin, since it's the most widely known and the most established of all of these cryptocurrencies, is considered digital gold. There's only going to be 21 million ever in circulation, ever. So much like gold, there's only a limited amount, which gives Bitcoin its value because it is capped at a certain amount. Bitcoin, a lot of people think it could be used as a transactional thing, but again, the way things are going and with all the other coins and what the other coins are doing, it really isn't to be seen that way as you're going to have a Bitcoin and buy a soda with Bitcoin. It's more like you have a gold bar that you have in your safe, and you have it there because it's worth a lot, and it increases your value over time and your net worth over time because you have that gold brick in your safe. Same thing with having Bitcoin now. Now, there's another one called LiteCoin, and LiteCoin, again, was a fork off of Bitcoin. And I think the best way to kind of think about LiteCoin is that LiteCoin is kind of like, whereas Bitcoin is gold, LiteCoin is kind of like silver. There's much more available, but it is a limited amount. I think it's like 87 million LiteCoin. If I get that wrong, I'll put the exact amount in the video. But I think it's about 80 some plus million LiteCoin that will ever be made, that can ever be mined. And that gives it a little bit more, a little less value, I should say, much the way that, there's more silver available than gold. The other thing you have to remember too is that LiteCoin unlike Bitcoin, can handle transactions 4 times faster, which makes it a little bit more useful. But again, because there's going to be more Litecoin available and more in the market, it's not going to quite be the same as Bitcoin as far as the value is concerned. So, before how I was talking about how Bitcoin is kind of seen as digital gold. Well, there was a fork of Bitcoin called Bitcoin Cash that had a bit of a dispute over that. So there were 2 factions within the Bitcoin community that were debating whether or not Bitcoin should be digital gold, or was Bitcoin more like a currency that everybody can use around the world that'll kind of change the world and the way we all handle money and the way we all do transactions and everything else. That's what Bitcoin Cash wound up being. Now, Bitcoin Cash as a fork doesn't have the same limits as far as Bitcoin has, as far as how much is going to be available. There's much more available of Bitcoin Cash. And again, the goal of Bitcoin Cash is to be used as a currency in some respects, which is why it's called Bitcoin Cash. Now, there's a dispute as to whether or not which one of these is going to win out in the end. Although a lot of people lean towards Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash does have its uses. But the other thinking is that Bitcoin Cash has been kind of usurped by some of the other coins that are a lot better used as cash, especially considering some of the environmental concerns that have been brought up by people like Bill Maher and, of course, Elon Musk. So there's still a dispute between the two. Bitcoin Cash, less popular than Bitcoin, but it is one to consider if you think in doing your research. Again, remember, none of this is financial advice. I am not your financial advisor. I am not a financial advisor, so you should do your own research. But if you do feel that Bitcoin Cash is going to be the wave of the future and is going to be something that everybody's going to wind up using, then you should probably invest in it. And if not, then I would stick with Bitcoin if you're choosing between the two. Of course, we got to talk about Dogecoin, I'm calling it. Dogecoin is the one that came on the scene earlier this year. It's been around for quite some time, and as many of you may know, it started off as a joke. The developers that made it really didn't take it seriously. They were just kind of playing around with the idea of digital currency, and some way, somehow, the branding of Dogecoin, just that dog, and the community surrounding it has pumped up Dogecoin to be something that was worth not even a penny to now I think it's still up to about 35, 40 cents it's hovering at, and it's gone up to as much as 60 cents. It's made a lot of people into millionaires over the course of a month or two. Of course, you got Doge Pro that everybody knows about, that guy who's made millions of dollars and then lost millions of dollars by holding on to it from his Dogecoin investment, where he took about $180,000 of his entire savings, charged some money, borrowed some money, did all kinds of weird things in order to get his share of Dogecoin, and it worked out for him in the end because technically he's a millionaire, but there's a possibility Doge can go back down to being 1 penny. So it's a gamble there. Dogecoin is probably nowhere near as technically useful as some of these other coins that are out there, but Dogecoin is like the branding. It's kind of like the John Cena of digital currency, where it fundamentally isn't better than anything else, and it just, it's not the biggest, it's not the tallest, it's not the most skilled, it doesn't have the most assets, and it's kind of shallow in some respects, but the branding is amazing, and a lot of people believe in it, and a lot of people will get behind it, and there is some value to just the presence of Dogecoin and just what it means to a lot of people in the community that surrounds it. So it is something to consider investing in if you want to put your money in there. Again, always do your research before doing that, but Doge, probably the least technically savvy of all the coins I'm talking about, but one of the more popular ones. And popularity goes a long way. Then there's one that a lot of people feel might be the one that wins out in the end. And if you consider, they consider Bitcoin to kind of be like the beta or like Laserdisc. And this other one called Ethereum is more like what VHS is or what CDs or CD-ROMs are. It's the one that kind of seems like second right now, but it could wind up being number one. And there's many reasons for that. A lot of it is because you can build applications off of Ethereum. And the thing about it is, if you really think about what I just mentioned, is those, especially these decentralized apps, they're more like kind of like the internet, where like nobody owns the internet. these just programs just exist. That's what you can build off of Ethereum, things that exist, but Apple doesn't own it, or Google doesn't own it, or Mark Cuban doesn't own it. It's its own thing, and you can, as us, as people, can interact with those things and not have it be based off of something that somebody can kind of manipulate. The way people can't really manipulate the entire structure of the internet works the way the internet is. Some of these decentralized applications that you can build off Ethereum operate the same way. Ethereum really does have, it seems to be a very big brain trust of developers, some really smart people who are working on it and constantly trying to improve it and make it something that can actually act as a contracting service for a lot of people, not so much a digital currency, but a way in which to handle transactions. And that's really one of the biggest draws to Ethereum and why it's gaining in popularity. And it's more of the one that's more popular for people who are a little bit more into the crypto space than Bitcoin, where I think in the future, you're probably going to wind up with both. You're probably going to have Bitcoin as, my theory is, again, this is just my theory, is that Bitcoin will probably exist like gold, and the stuff that's built off Ethereum will exist like credit cards. And then you'll have those two out there, and then maybe Doge is like cash. I'm currently like 50-50 split on them. I started at a 70 split with mostly Bitcoin, but the more and more I've researched Ethereum, the more and more money I have invested into Ethereum to make it basically at this point, like I said, 50% of my portfolio is Bitcoin and 50% is Ethereum. Now, again, back to this whole thing about forking. Now, if you do get Bitcoin or any kind of other coin and then there's a fork split off on it, you might look at your portfolio someday and go, wait a minute, where does Bitcoin Cash come from? I never bought that. Well, that usually is because, again, there was a fork of the Bitcoin that you owned. So when there is a fork, you will get both versions of that Bitcoin, and you can either keep them or sell them or convert them to, if you don't want to keep it, you can convert it to Ethereum or Bitcoin or whatever other cryptocurrency you want. But that will happen over the course of time if you invest in this cryptocurrency space. And you have to remember that those are not equal values. That, I like to say, one could be worth 70% of the original Bitcoin that it got split from or forked from, and the other 30%, which could be Bitcoin plastic or whatever, could be only worth 30% of the original amount that the split came from. And it doesn't operate too dissimilar from a stock split. So like a lot of people who had Tesla last year, say if you had 10 shares of Tesla and then the stock split happened and then you looked at your portfolio and you had like 30 shares of Tesla, but they were all worth less. Combined together, they're all worth the same amount as the original 10 that you had, but that was just broken up into 30. That's the same way a fork happens here if your Bitcoin gets forked. A bit of warning though, when you're dealing with cryptocurrencies, in a lot of places you can get them at Coinbase, BlockFi, obviously you can do some investments. There's Celsius, which I'm also starting to use now for investment in cryptocurrencies and to get some sweet interest on the Bitcoin and Ethereum and the other cryptocurrencies that you own. But another thing that you can do is get a ledger. And a ledger is something that a lot of people suggest when you get a certain amount of money, like if you get a couple $1,000s invested in cryptocurrency, you might want to get a ledger so you can put on your ledger the cryptocurrency that you own. Because here's the thing about cryptocurrency. You don't really own it if you don't understand or don't have your hash number. Now, there's this long string of numbers and letters that you'll get that you can take, and you need to have that in order to actually know and have access to your actual Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever the cryptocurrency is. Now, what you can do with a ledger, and it basically looks like a key fob or a flash drive or whatever. You'll have one, your coins will be stored on there, which is called cold storage, and you'll get this little number that what you should probably do is write it down, put it in a safe somewhere, and keep it there. So if the ledger gets broken or something happens to it, you still have access to it, but the ledger just gives a digital way for you to plug it into your computer, and if you want to transfer stuff in or out of it, on or off the ledger, you can do it that way. Another thing too is to use two-factor authentication with anything that you're using for. So say if you're like using BlockFi, you want to have two-factor authentication where you have to enter a code that'll be sent to your phone that is actually on your phone, an app on your phone that generates like a 6-digit code that you have to enter into every time you go into whatever app, whether it's BlockFi or Coinbase or whatever it is, in order to access, or even if you're using Robinhood, to access your cryptocurrency. Because otherwise people can do some weird stuff to kind of hack, because a lot of people try to steal Bitcoin and hack things all the time, especially your personal network. So these are safety precautions by getting a ledger, making sure you have two-factor authentication when you're signing into any of your apps that you are storing your Bitcoin on, or your Ethereum or whatever the cryptocurrency is that you have. Take those precautions, because the last thing you want to do is to invest like $10,000 over a year and then wind up with it all stolen because you didn't protect your your account and somebody just guessed your password and took all your coins. So ultimately, in the end, is this really worth it? Is it really worth going through all of this stuff and doing all this research to look into cryptocurrency and Bitcoin and LiteCoin and Dogecoin and Bitcoin Cash and Ethereum Classic and so on and so forth and Poop Coin and whatever else it is? Well, if you are a person who is invested in the future, because that is what cryptocurrency is entirely about, is what the future of finance is going to be and not what the present or the past is. If you're a person who's geared towards that and you're going to be around for another 20 or 30 years, you probably do want to invest in some cryptocurrency. Think about it like this. Think about it like a couple hundred years ago. There was all this land out in New York that had been stolen, but was vacant, well, wasn't really being used. And if you got a plot of land then for really dirt cheap for like $20, well, now a plot of land that's in New York City is worth God knows how much money. That's what you're really getting, or at least people think that you're getting, or hope that you're getting, or project that you're getting with cryptocurrency, is that it's the same thing. You're buying a plot of land in New York back in the 1700s. That's what you're doing today with Bitcoin, Ethereum, LiteCoin, and maybe even Dogecoin, is you're buying something that way in the future is going to be worth a crap ton of money that not only in the next 10 or 20 years you're going to see benefits from, but if you have children, if you have people you leave money to, they'll be able to inherit those assets. It's a new inherited asset class that may be world changing in the future, and you might as well try to get in on it now while you can, if you do your research and you want to. So that's pretty much my very short layman's way of describing cryptocurrency and why there are different cryptocurrencies, how you can use them, safe ways to use them, and things to watch out for. Of course, I'll be talking more about cryptocurrency here on Wrestling with Finance, because it is a very new thing and the average person doesn't quite grasp a lot of it. So I'm trying to convey it to as many people as I can in ways that I think they'll understand. But if you have any questions, of course, you can leave a comment in the comment box below. I'll try to answer any questions that people leave, or you send it to me on social media. I'll try to answer those. If you enjoyed this video, of course, you can always do a favor again. Take your finger, hit that like button, and while you're down there, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. And probably more importantly, share this with people who you know have questions about cryptocurrency and don't really understand. Say, hey, check this video out. Kind of explains it to you in a way that's really simple. So with that said, thank you guys very much for watching Wrestling with Finance here. I will be back again for more videos about cryptocurrency, finances, personal investment, stocks, everything else in the future. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Have a good day.